Hi, I'm Joseph Laycock. I'm a teaching fellow at Boston University and the author of Vampires Today, The Truth About Modern Vampirism. I'm here for BuzzNet to present the top 10 misconceptions about vampires. Number 10. Vampires started with Dracula. Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897. By that time, the English had been writing stories about vampires for nearly a century. The fear that the dead will return to feed on the living can be found across cultures and appears to go all the way back to the Stone Age. By the 1600s, the English language had stuffed this entire phenomenon into one label: vampire. Number 9. Vampires come from Transylvania. Dracula was a real person, but he wasn't from Transylvania. He controlled a different region called Wallachia. He used ruthless tactics, including impaling people on stakes, to fend off invasions and maintain order. Stoker read stories about Dracula's cruelty and thought he would make a good basis for his villain. He relocated Dracula to Transylvania because the library had more books about Transylvania than Wallachia. Number 8. You have to be turned to become a vampire. In the old days, there were lots of ways to become a vampire. The people most likely to rise again as vampires were those who had done something bad in life. You could also become a vampire if your burial went wrong, or if an animal, say a cat or a bat, crossed over your corpse before you were buried. Number 7. Vampires have always been sexy. Before the Romantic movement in the 18th century, vampires were rotting corpses that slept in their graves. They were zombies. Also, most vampires were poor. Number 6. Vampires are popular. Throughout history, vampires have served to hold society together by offering a scapegoat for everyone's problems. The crops failed, your family is sick, it was a vampire. Today, people continue to use the term vampire when they want to throw around blame. In 2009, Glenn Beck declared that our government is full of vampires who want to drain the blood of our businesses. Number 5. All vampires drink blood. In the 19th century, English occultists began studying yoga in India. Many of them became convinced that vampires might be real beings that feed on life force or psychic energy instead of blood. Now, psychic vampires have been folded into pop psychology. In 2009, Dolly Parton described herself as an energy vampire. Number 4. Self-identified vampires are mentally ill. All the vampires I have met see the world in a very different way, but they are rational beings. Psychologists sometimes talk about diseases like clinical vampirism, but these are not listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is the official listing for recognized mental illnesses. Number 3. Self-identified vampires are dangerous. The vampires I have met only acquire blood from consenting donors. They also believe in regulating their community and have contacted police when someone calling himself a vampire is doing something foolish. Number 2. Sunlight. Vampires do not sparkle in the sunlight. They don't turn into dust either. It is true that vampires tend to be active only at night, but Dracula goes out in the daytime, albeit with diminished powers. Number 1. Vampires are over. Vampires seem to resurface in popular culture every 10 years, getting more popular each time. For villagers living in the Dark Ages, vampires were a way to make sense of their world and their fears. But to modern people, vampires have become romantic figures that reflect our dreams and desires, as well as our own sense of alienation. As long as society leaves people feeling left in the shadows, vampires will have a place in our hearts.